Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Wednesday, March 6th. I'm Jonathan Ahl. Missouri Republicans are divided over whether to provide more military and financial aid to Ukraine.
It cannot be the case that we have unlimited sums of money for Ukraine or any other foreign nation, but we have nothing for the people of St. Louis and St. Charles who have been poisoned by their own government with nuclear radiation.
Coming up on The Gateway, St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum talks to Missouri's elected officials and political candidates about whether the United States should help Ukraine's continued war against Russia. St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones signed legislation yesterday that clears the way for the city to more easily bring new development to parts of North St. Louis. St. Louis Public Radio's Eric Schmid reports it's focused on underused property in neighborhoods around the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's new headquarters.
The ordinance establishes a redevelopment and blighting study for more than 800 acres in the Jeff Vanderloo, St. Louis Place, and Carr Square neighborhoods. It gives the city the power to use eminent domain to force the sale of private property that's condemned, vacant, unoccupied, or otherwise a nuisance. St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones says the legislation will help address the issue of developers buying up property but not investing in it.
This isn't targeted at one specific individual. This is about an entire neighborhood or neighborhoods that have felt neglected and left behind for far too long.
Jones says she hopes this ordinance will help revitalize North St. Louis neighborhoods around the new NGA facility ahead of its full opening in 2026. I'm Eric Schmid, St. Louis Public Radio.
The Army Corps of Engineers is testing beneath homes in a subdivision in Florissant for nuclear contamination. The homes were built on top of an area where Coldwater Creek used to run. When the subdivision was built, contamination in the former creek bed was buried underground. The Army Corps says all affected homeowners have already been notified of the situation. Just Mom's STL co-founder Dawn Chapman says her organization spoke with some of the homeowners earlier this week.
This is not a 50-year-old problem. This is a today problem, too. And these people are heartbroken. They don't know what to do and they're scared.
The Army Corps says it plans to hold a community meeting soon to address concerns residents might have. Some mechanics from the bus company that provides transportation for St. Louis public school children are speaking out about mechanical issues. St. Louis Public Radio's Lucretia Wembley reports.
After dozens of bus drivers called in sick for 2 days last week in protest of a noose being found near a workstation, workers say racial discrimination is only part of the problem. The St. Louis City chapter of the NAACP is now investigating. Tech aide Jerry Ellis says he's been working at Missouri Central School Bus since September, but efforts to improve mechanical issues on buses have fallen on deaf ears.
Let's say you have 120 buses and you have 50, 60 buses out of service and you got 10 mechanics, somebody will say, hey, something is not right. And then here comes an Afro-American man comes to work. So in the midst of bringing that list down, then you're target.
The NAACP says they plan to submit a report to the Circuit Attorney's Office. I'm Lucretia Wembley, St. Louis Public Radio.
A St. Louis man whose case led to the resignation of then Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner went on trial yesterday for a downtown crash that caused a Tennessee teenager to lose her legs. Daniel Riley faces multiple counts for allegedly speeding through a yield sign, crashing into a car, and then into Janae Edmondson, who was in town for a volleyball tournament. Riley was out on bond in a gun case at the time of the crash, despite having violated the terms of his release multiple times. Gardner faced extensive criticism for not officially asking to have Riley's bond revoked. The case also revealed deep problems with Gardner's management of the Circuit Attorney's Office. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey eventually opened a legal effort to force Gardner to leave office. She resigned last May before that process concluded. The Missouri Supreme Court yesterday refused to hear the case of Eric DeValkenir, the former Kansas City police detective convicted of killing a black man. Peggy Lowe reports.
DeValkenir was found guilty of second-degree involuntary manslaughter and armed criminal action by a Jackson County judge in November 2021 for killing Cameron Lamb. The 26-year-old man was unarmed when DeValkenir shot him. The Missouri Court of Appeals upheld the conviction, and DeValkenir is now serving his 6-year sentence in an out-of-state prison. Jackson County Prosecutor Jean Peters Baker issued a statement saying the Supreme Court's decision wasn't unexpected. Still pending is a possible pardon from Governor Mike Parson, who has not indicated his intentions. I'm Peggy Lowe.
One of the most contentious topics for members of Congress right now is whether the United States should continue giving military support and money to Ukraine. It's an issue that's divided candidates in Missouri's U.S. Senate contest, as well as GOP members of Missouri's House delegation. St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum reports.
It's a Friday evening in Kansas City, and U.S. Senator Josh Hawley is rolling through a speech to attendees of Missouri Republican Party Lincoln Days. And after trashing legislation that would have paired changes to immigration policy with foreign aid to several countries, the GOP lawmaker eventually got to a stance that's gained him a lot of attention in Washington: his opposition to providing military assistance to Ukraine.
While we are here and suffering, while America is crumbling to pieces, they want to fund the borders of Ukraine. And, pardon my language, but my view is, hell no. No. No.
Hawley is part of a growing group of GOP lawmakers who have expressed hostility toward aiding Ukraine as it struggles to repel Russia's invasion of its territory. He's contended, among other things, that aiding Ukraine is a distraction from helping Taiwan prepare for a potential invasion from China. He's also said that providing weapons or financial assistance to Ukraine is a misbegotten priority from domestic issues, like providing restitution for people in the St. Louis region who have been sickened by radioactive waste exposure.
It cannot be the case that we have unlimited sums of money for Ukraine or any other foreign nation, but we have nothing for the people of St. Louis and St. Charles who have been poisoned by their own government with nuclear radiation.
Hawley's position on Ukraine aid is noticeably different from his two main Democratic challengers, Independence resident Lucas Kuntz and Democratic State Senator Carla May. Kuntz says providing Ukraine with weapons is a deterrent against Russia's expansionism.
We've seen that they're willing to invade their neighbors, and we need to make sure that we stop that before it spreads to all of Europe. And I can tell you right now, it's a lot cheaper to provide weapons to Ukraine than it is to put boots on the ground and than it is to have an all-out war over there.
May says she not only supports helping Ukraine, but also providing aid to Israel in its military campaign in Gaza.
I definitely think that we should support Ukraine. I really am in favor of independent nation. And so therefore, yes.
A legislative package that would provide aid to Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel passed the Senate, but faces an uncertain future in the House. Some Republicans, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, have threatened to try and unseat Speaker Mike Johnson if he passes any Ukraine aid out of the chamber. Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver of Kansas City says most of his congressional colleagues want to help Ukraine.
I'd say maybe 85 to 90% of the members of Congress support Ukraine funding.
This issue is dividing Missouri Republicans. U.S. Representative Ann Wagner of Baldwin, for instance, recently sent out a tweet expressing support for Ukraine military assistance. That's something that Congressman Eric Burleson of Battlefield opposes until there's more action on immigration policy.
I'm happy to talk about Ukraine and helping countries like Ukraine if we will fix the border.
Burleson, however, doesn't agree with some Republicans who have sought to paint Russia as the aggrieved party in the war and Ukraine as a corrupt proxy of the West.
Russia is the evil actor in this situation, right? Russia is the aggressor. They are invading Ukraine. They're the ones sending missiles into Kyiv. Ukraine is not sending missiles into Moscow.
If the House GOP doesn't bring the foreign aid package to the floor, it's possible that a bipartisan group of lawmakers might use what's known as a discharge petition to force a vote in the coming weeks. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, St. Louis Public Radio.
Our Fred Ehrlich edited that report. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Jonathan Ahl, and from the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.